Life Love Lessons for Women of Faith. So you are a woman of faith. You have overcome over and over again. You have testimonies of passing many tests and victory stories of victorious winnings. Then, why are you hypertensive, high-strung, distressed, depressed, anxious, angry, living life but not loving life? Hi, I'm Teacher Hazel. Teaching is my ministry, my career, my life's work. I too am a woman of faith. I have been through the fire, I have been through the flood. Now, my heart's desire is the love dance of God. I am inviting you to listen to Life Love Lessons and talk to me about your learnings from my teachings. Join me on Thursdays at 10 p.m. on my YouTube channel, Abundant Life Mastery at the Call. And let's talk about life love lessons as women of faith. Life love lessons for women of faith. Welcome. It's a joy to be with you once again. So welcome to Life Love Lessons for Women of Faith, Lesson 2. And let me remind men, you are welcome because men is included in women. So no men, no women. You belong. So welcome to all to Life Love Lessons for Women of Faith. Let us pray. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God sustains us. Wherever we are, God is. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. He came that we may have life and have it more abundantly. I thank God for you, and I thank you all for being here. Allow me to thank those who attended Lesson 1 and those who asked questions during question time in Lesson 1. And for those of you who are new to the program, I am Teacher Hazel, Reverend Dr. Teacher Hazel and Gibbs DePeza, better known as Teacher Hazel. I'm a teacher by profession. I taught in the education system for 50 years. I'm a teacher by calling. Teaching is my ministry. I'm also a transformational life coach and a life mastery consultant. And I am a mother, grandmother, and great-grandmother, blessed with 10 stars in my life. And yes, those 10 stars, they light up my life. So here we are with Life Love Lessons for Women of Faith, Lesson 2. Tonight we will review a little from Lesson 1, and then I will present, as promised, on claim number 5 of Women of Faith. Remember, we had 5 claims. That the source of your strength lies in your faith in God. And we will explore the application of life love lessons on faith, source, and you. Our format remains. I will present on the topic for about 25 to 30 minutes. And then we spend the next 15 to 25 minutes discussing your comments and your questions. And remember, please put your questions and comments in the chat and let them be focused on the lesson at hand. Okay? Let me remind you that my main intention is to encourage you, women of faith, to answer the call to your God given purpose and access the more abundant life Christ promised you, and empower you to live a life you love. No longer smiling, pretending that all is well, but moving to knowing that all is well. When you are on the faith road, there are some things you need to be, to do, to know, and to have. So, from lesson one, remember, don't blame yourself, don't blame anyone, don't get into the blame game. It is what it is. It was what it was. We are all aware of the part that history and culture and the expectations placed upon us as children play in our adult life. But to quote my mentor, L. Anthony Watkins, the past may be an explanation for the present, but it must not be used as an excuse for the future. Remember that. No excuses. You are going to choose the future that you will have, no matter what the past may have been. In lesson one, we began by defining and decoding our terms. The first term is woman of faith. So the term woman of faith refers to the female of the human species who lives with or by a strong belief in a specific someone. That someone is the creator, redeemer, comforter, triune God. So that's our first term that we defined, and we went into some detail when we were doing it. And the second term that we had to define is life, love, lessons. And so, life, we agreed that life is that journey from birth to death, when the spiritual being sojourns in an earth suit for a human experience here on this terrestrial ball. So we agreed that that's what life is, that journey from birth to death, when the spiritual being sojourns in an earth suit for a human experience here on this terrestrial ball. And we'll be dealing with that again as we go along. So it's life, love, lessons. Lessons. And we know that lessons are not just about new information and new content, but about learning new perspectives, new understandings, new appreciations, and new perceptions about the things you already know. So you know a whole lot of things. You're not coming here clean and wiped, right? You know a lot of things. What we are going to do is to get some new perspectives, some new appreciations, some new perceptions about the things that you already know. So those are the lessons that you're going to be learning. and love. We explored several definitions of love and noted that the focus of love in life love lessons is captured in the Nobel Prize winning poet Derek Walcott's famous poem, Love After Love. And I'll just read a little part of that poem for you that we looked at last day. You will love again the stranger who was yourself. Give wine, give bread, give back your heart to itself, to the stranger who has loved you all your life, whom you ignored for another. So, at the end of life love lessons, you will love again the stranger who was yourself. In order to love our neighbor. So you notice I've just switched it around to make you understand. Love God first, love Him with all. But then we have to love ourselves in order to love our neighbor as we love ourselves. And then you will not just be alive, but you will love your life. Remember, John 10:10 says, I am come that they might have life and that they might have it more abundantly. So, Life Love Lessons promises to brighten the path to the more abundant life that was promised to you. So, that's a recap of some of the main points in Lesson 1. And now we are on to Lesson 2. Woman of faith, do you know you? Do you know you? The designer special, the you that is fearfully and wonderfully made. Let's look at the you. Do you know you? And I want you to pay some attention with me to the systems of the body that you carry. You are fearfully and wonderfully made, don't you think? Let's look at the systems. Can we just open the picture straight across so that we get a, a bigger look at the side? If we can open it full size. So we're looking at the human body systems, and we're realizing that this body that we see on the outside has several systems running one after the other, one into the other, one above, one below, one in between. So we have the circulatory system, and we have the nervous system, and we have the respiratory system, and we have the digestive system, and we have the muscular system, and we have the skeletal system. All of these are happening under this body that we see on the outside. Don't you agree that you are fearfully and wonderfully made? And note that these systems know how to function, and they know how to depend on each other, how to interact, and they even know how to heal themselves. Yes, our body knows how to heal itself. The reason we have to depend on so many medicines and operations and all kinds of things is because we don't treat the body right. We don't vibrate at the right level of vibration, and therefore things go wrong, and we have to get extra help, right? But I think you agree that you are fearfully and wonderfully made. So, do you know the real you, the magnificent creation made in the image of the Creator? Do you know the true you, that beneath the surface there are so many other things apart from the physical structures? Beneath the surface, we have the body, which serves the soul. We have the soul, which serves the spirit. And then we have the spirit, which serves God. So that the body is that physical section, all right? And that's where we interact with the physical world, and that's where we get our information coming in from. But then that information is passed on to the soul, and the soul is the part which thinks and which chooses. And if you look at the diagram, you will see that there are two arrows going to the soul, one from the body and one from the spirit, so that the soul chooses whether it will focus on the body or whether it will focus on the spirit. We choose. And depending on which one we focus on, that's the one we will go with, and that's the kind of life that we will live. So we need to be aware of that we are not just a body, and that there are interactions that are happening between the various parts of this magnificent creation: body, soul, and spirit. And the spirit is the part that is directly connected to the eternal spirit, the creator. Because remember, we are made in his image, and he is spirit, so we are spirit. So we are directly connected via the spirit. The spirit gives information to the soul. The body, on the other hand, gives information to the soul. And within the soul, we determine, we choose who we're going to pay attention to, which voice we're going to listen to. Because remember, God is a spirit. You're made in his image, so you are spirit. So who are you? Who are you? A spiritual being sojourning on the earth for a human physical experience. So I am a spiritual being currently sojourning in physical form, having a human experience. And I want you to say that with me. I am a spiritual being currently sojourning in physical form, having a human experience. You see, this perception produces a different perspective on life. If you are a human being with a spirit, the human, the physical, is your focus. The physical is your essence. The physical is the you that is important. And that's what we have been taught for generations, that I'm a human being. I'm only human. No, I'm not only human. And no, I'm not a human being first. I am a spiritual being, currently sojourning in physical form, having a human experience. When you understand who you are in these terms, that you are a spiritual being wearing an earth suit, we went through that last lesson, a body, an earth suit, having a human experience, and that this experience has a beginning time and an end time, which means that the spirit was before the human beginning, and the spirit continues after the human experience ends. And this changes your focus. It changes the essence of who you are. Because when you see yourself and you know yourself as a spiritual being, just spending some time down here, just going to earth school for a while, learning a few things, having some experiences at a particular level. When you know yourself as that, it changes the essence of who you are because it changes your focus. With this new understanding, you are a new creation. So it's like being born again. Yes. Woman of faith, when you are born again, you begin a new life, a life of faith, because you now know that you are not your own source. The things and the persons around you are not your source. Your source is eternal, magnificent, all powerful, all knowing, all loving. Your source is spirit. Therefore, you are spirit too. I am a spiritual being, currently sojourning in physical form, having a human experience. So when you say in your claim that you have faith and you get the strength from your source, you have faith in the source of your strength, and you realize, you learn the nature of your source. So it's not just words that you say. You learn, you know, you're certain the nature of your source, and that you are made in the image of your source. You understand then that you have access to the strength and the might of your source. So it's not just that you have faith and you're saying the source of my strength. You know your source. So you now know that you have an infinite connection. And when others go to the internet for knowledge and power, you can go to the infinite for knowledge and power. I hope you're following me. Others go to the internet for knowledge and power, but you can go to the infinite for knowledge and power. as a woman of faith. So, woman of faith, when you claim that the source of your strength is your faith in God, and you know who you are, you know your connection, you know your nature, then you rise. You rise from anxiety. You rise from anger. You rise above distress. You rise above depression. You live above hatred. You live in love. It's a whole different ball game. When you learn to live in love, you live in abundance. In his presence, there is fullness of joy. But his presence is a spiritual presence, not a physical presence. And if you only see yourself as a physical being, you cannot experience his presence and the fullness of his joy, because your focus will be on the physical. But when you understand that you're a spiritual being, your focus will be on the spiritual. And then you will have the experience of the fullness of joy in his presence. You see, we are told that they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. God is spirit. And the truth is that you are spirit too. You see, if you're on the physical level, when you go to church or to a motivational lecture or to some event, you can be excited and motivated and feel peace and joy and love. And when it's over, you go home. But what are you going home to? You're going home to a human physical vibration. But when you recognize yourself as a spiritual being, when you go home, you are going home to your spiritual self, your capital S self. And that is the self that you have to love. So, the question came up about loving yourself and not being able to love God. No, you see, when you love your capital S self, your spiritual self, you cannot but love God, because you're making the connection, that spiritual connection, that continuity. And therefore, there is no conflict when you love your spiritual self. So if you don't know who you are, you can't be who you were made to be. If you don't know who you are, you can't do what you were destined to do. If you don't know who you are, you can't have what you were meant to have. Hence the questions. Who are you? Do you know you? Knowledge of yourself, your true self, your spiritual self, gives you knowledge of your true source. True knowledge of your source changes the quality of your love. It changes the focus of your faith, and it changes the nature of your strength. So let us just apply love, faith, and strength to the storyline. Love. Love changes everything. In lesson 1, we noted that God is love and love is of God. And 1 Corinthians 13:3 gives us a little insight about love. If I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, And if I give my body to be burned, but have not love, it profiteth me nothing. In other words, the things that you do on the outside must be coming from a place of love on the inside. And we all know that it is possible to do things that look like love when in fact there is no love. And the word is saying to you that you could do whatever you want. If the love is not there, you don't get the benefit of it. And we need to understand that because we get into the habit of the physical show, the human expression, and we think that that's okay. No, if you're a woman of faith, your faith has to be anchored in love because God is love. And therefore, whatever you do must be done in love, through love, for love, by love. If there is no love, then what you do doesn't have the value that you think it has. When you know who you are and you know who God is, you know what love is. Because if you do not love yourself, that wonderfully made self in the image of the Creator self, then you do not know love. If you have no love for yourself, then you have no love to give anybody else. You can't give what you don't have. So if you don't love yourself and you've been telling people that you love them, you've been fooling them all along. You have to begin. Love God, love yourself, and then extend the self to love your neighbor. You can't love your neighbor without loving yourself. You're fooling your neighbor when you say, I love you. Mm-mm. You can't love you and not love me. You have to start by loving me and then move on to loving you. Right? So that's how the love is intertwined in all that we are talking about. And then let's focus on your faith, right? Because it's love, faith, and strength. So let's focus on your faith. Matthew 17:20. Christ says, truly I tell you, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you. Now we have learned this, and we say this, and we know it by heart, and we repeat it, but have we internalized it? Do we understand it? And we can't understand it and internalize it if we are thinking of ourselves as human beings with a spirit. It will only gel when we understand ourselves as spiritual beings with a body. Because as a spiritual being, when you have faith, that faith is locked into an infinite spirit, a spirit for whom nothing is impossible. And as part of that spirit, nothing is impossible for you. But the connection has to be sure, it has to be secure, it has to be understood, it has to be accepted and acknowledged. If we only say in words, then the connection doesn't give us the power that it should. Right? So that's the question of the faith. And then we talk about the strength. So the source of your strength. And the source of your strength 2 Corinthians 12:9 says, He said to me, My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Now understand, when you know your infinite connection, that is the only time that you can say, like Paul, I glory in my weakness to show forth the strength of my source. You know, when I first read that glory in your weakness, something is wrong with this man. He's okay when he's suffering. He has to be crazy. But you see, when you have made that connection and you understand that you are a spiritual being and that this time here is just a short time in the whole lifespan, it has a beginning, it has an end. It doesn't go on forever. But your spirit lives on forever because spirit is eternal. And then the focus changes. The essence changes. What is important changes. And then you can say, yes, I glory in my weakness. Because when I am weak, my infinite strength becomes active. So understand, you are a spiritual being, and you must be able to make that connection with spirit in order for the things that we've been learning all along to make a difference in our lives. So that when we say we are women of faith, it is not just about the trials we've been through. It's not just about the victories we've won. It is about knowing who we are, knowing our true nature. Not going to the internet for knowledge and power, but going to the infinite for infinite knowledge and power. And so it's about time for me to stop talking. And so I'm going to give you some homework. Yes, homework. So I want you to look at the slide that's coming up. And that is where your homework lies. When last did you, or did you ever, look in the mirror and tell the person you see there, I love you? If you've never done it, you have to do it now. And if you've done it once in a while, your homework is 3 times a day. You know, when the doctor gives you medicine and you take the tablets 3 times a day? Yeah. 3 times a day. Between now and our next lesson, look in the mirror. And don't just say it, huh? Look in the mirror. Look that person in the mirror in his or her eyes and say, I love you. And say it until you mean it. Say it until you feel it. Say it until you know it and it becomes true. So, do you know you? If you know you, then you will love you. And now we move on to our question time. So, let's hear what questions we have for lesson 2 of our journey as women of faith. No questions coming up in the chat? So we've looked at our second lesson, life, love lessons, as women we are going to get to that point where we love our life. So we're taking it step by step. We understand who we are as women of faith. We understand the claims that we have. We understand that when we say that we get strength in the source that we have, and we have faith in that source and that strength, that we understand why we can say that. And remember the question that is asked in the invitation: why are you depressed if you are a woman of faith? And someone is saying that they straight into the eyes of that person in the mirror and say to that person, I love you. And if you find it a little difficult to say the things you love. So I love you with your big nose. I love you. I love you with your bat ears. I love you. I love you with all your freckles on your nose. I love you. Because you have to love who you are, right? Loving yourself builds gratitude. Yes, because when you love yourself, you love your creator and you love his creations, and you are grateful for what you have, for what you've been given, for how you've been created. And we know that so many people don't love themselves. It's part of our historical structure as well. We were trained not to love ourselves. And that's why we need to retrain by loving ourselves. And we have to get to that point where we don't allow the masters, the oppressors, the colonizers to control us with their version of their interpretation of the Word of God. Because they will focus on the fact that you can't love yourself, because if you love yourself too much, you wouldn't love God. No, you can love yourself. You must love yourself because that's what you were made for. Thank you that you acknowledge that you've gained some knowledge and that you've learned a few things here. I'm happy for that. That's what it's all about. It's about helping us to empower ourselves to access the abundant life that Christ came for us to have. And notice that he said he came that we may have it more abundantly. So it means that the abundant life is already there. And if we're not picking up on it, he has come so that we'll have it more abundantly. Okay? So I sincerely hope that you have enjoyed this lesson. Some people say they love themselves more than God. If they love themselves more than God, I hope that you're hearing me now. Yes, so we had a little technical difficulty there, right? You see, and that's what happens with the internet sometimes. And that's why we have the infinite to go to. That doesn't happen there, right? So I was just saying to you that lesson 3, we will explore your beliefs about life, and we will consider the value of your physical senses and the use of your super senses. So we're going to get into that aspect of it. So I thank God for you, and I thank you for being here. Yes, learning to say I love you and mean it will require the faith to believe it and the strength to say it and let it register in your heart. Repetition will help you, it will get you on the path, right? But you need to understand that you're coming from a different perspective, not the perspective that this physical life is what there is. It is a spiritual life. So that is where, yes, the transformation of the mind comes in. So as we leave for tonight, I want to say to you, love yourself. It is the only self you have. Love your life. It is the only life you know. Live abundantly. It is your birthright. Love God. It is your purpose for being here. So I thank you, and I pray that God will continue to bless you. And I wish you sweet dreams tonight. Thank you for sharing and being here with me for lesson 2 of Life Love Lessons for Women of Faith. Bye. Love you. And don't forget your homework.